Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Truth Podcast. My guest today is Brian Winch, and he is the creator and author of Cleanlots, America's simplest business. Brian has been involved in all aspects of the parking lot litter cleanup business since 1981. He can teach you how to start and operate a simple business based from home and make money from a green service that is almost as easy to do as going for a walk. Welcome to his show, Brian.
Hi, Jim. It's good to be here.
It's wonderful to have you today. My first question is going to be, what kind of sparked that for you? What lit that fire for you to become an entrepreneur?
Well, it was back in 1981, and I was 21 years of age, and I decided I didn't want to work for anybody again anymore. I was a shipper-receiver at a sporting goods company, and quite frankly, I was always an independent type of person. I like to do things my way, and I enjoyed the outdoors. And I kind of, after a while, felt trapped having to spend 8 hours a day within the same four walls and putting in your time, punching in, punching out. And some days you're busy, some days you're not, and you have to look busy. And I thought, you know what, I want to work for myself. But the problem I had was I didn't have much money in the bank account. I barely graduated high school, didn't have a lot of marketable skills. So, what was I going to do? So I started looking at different opportunities. And keep in mind, this is 1981, well before the internet. So, I had to pick up the old home business magazines, that were on the newsstands for ideas, etc. And then the memory came back to me that my dad, who was a caretaker or janitor by occupation, he always did a few things on the side. Back then it was called moonlighting instead of side hustles or side gigs or a part-time job, if you will. And he used to clean up litter or trash from the parking lot of a nearby shopping plaza, just a few blocks away from where we lived. And he had taken me along with him a couple times early morning before he would do this work, before he would go to his full-time job. And I was just a kid. And I remember doing that. I thought, this is easy. We weren't, pushing broom and overwhelmed with all sorts of trash or litter on the property, because it was simple day-to-day maintenance. So we would go there, or he would go there every day and clean up what was there from the previous day and leave the property nice and clean before the businesses opened for the day. And so I remember that. And I thought, well, you know what, let's see if there's a market for that. But unfortunately, I couldn't call upon him because he had passed away at the end of July. And it was the first part of September when I decided that I was going to make this break from employment and start a part-time business. So, but I remember, what tools he used and et cetera. So I thought, well, let's test the market. I picked up the telephone and grabbed the old Yellow Pages telephone directory, looked under property management companies, and started phoning them. And, a few phone calls later, a prospect said, hey, I need somebody who will show up on a reliable basis. That's the problem I'm having. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. But would you be interested in giving me a price to clean the litter from my parking lots? I said, sure, why not? And that's how it all began. It started with those three initial contracts, and it grew from there. And it was just a big learning curve because, like I said, I had to learn from the school of hard knocks, what worked, what didn't, and just adapt.
Right. Yeah, that's really cool to hear that story, that you were just you couldn't stay trapped anymore. Is kind of what it felt like to me. Is that kind of what you were feeling there?
Yeah. And like I say, I was 21. So, I thought I was going to do something else. I mean, a lot of people, when they graduate high school, they think they had, they have a really good idea. This is what I want to do. And then when you actually start doing the work, it turns out, no, I don't like that. So, when I finished high school, I did take a correspondence course in broadcasting. And they had a job placement program. And I was fortunate enough to get that first job working in a small radio station. But I hated it. I hated the work. And it wasn't anything like I thought it was. And so then I moved back home, and started doing a couple of different jobs. One job didn't work out, and then I went back to this sporting goods company that actually I had worked for earlier when I was in high school, just on a part-time basis. I was on the floor working sales. But when I went back to the sporting goods company to work for them full time, they put me back in the shipping receiving department. And I didn't mind that to begin with. But like I say, after a while, I thought, it doesn't matter how hard I work, I'm always going to make the same amount of money. And I'd go out for lunch, and it's a nice day. And I was thinking, I wish I could stay outside. I didn't want to go back in. And so, I was thinking of all sorts of reasons why, employment, working for somebody else wasn't for me, and I had to find a way to make it work for myself.
That makes perfect sense. You do sound like you have a radio voice, by the way.
Oh.
I was going to mention that to you anyway.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The thing is, you learn different skills throughout your life, and at first you think maybe that didn't work out, but you never know. Years later, it comes in handy. Some of those little skills that you did pick up that, maybe initially you kind of brushed off, and it was a waste of time. Nothing is ever a waste of time, really.
Yeah, I agree. That's something they can't take away from you is knowledge, unless you get into an unfortunate accident or some way that was taken away. But no one can ever take that away from you. You know, and so that's a good thing. I was going to ask you this: what either internal or external has held you back in your journey of becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, I guess back then, I mean, I was 21. I was probably young and naive. I didn't really have a lot of fears. I just jumped in and, and started learning. And what I found was, because I didn't have a lot of those skills, I had to quickly learn. And so, if there was something that I didn't know, I would find out how to do it. And, back then, whether it was asking some people for some help or picking up some material from the library or at that time, there was a lot of good publications put out by various levels of government and banks even, banks, in order to lure people for business bank accounts, they'd put out all sorts of good information to try to attract that crowd. And so there's a lot of stuff I would, learn from that. And then, like I said, try to apply it. And in some cases it would work, and in some cases it didn't. So you just have to adapt. And I quickly learned that, if there's a roadblock, I mean, there's always a solution. So you just have to find a way to make things work, as opposed to saying, well, I'm throwing in the towel, it didn't work, and I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly. There has to be some perseverance. There has to be some, tenacity to it to go ahead and to be able to continue to do what you want to do, even though sometimes you may have to pivot, you may have to do some other things because something's not working. You have to figure it out. You have to get over that obstacle or around that obstacle, whatever it takes to do. That's what you need to do. And us as entrepreneurs, you got to figure all that out on our own sometimes. I mean, maybe not on our own, but, a lot of it we do take on our own, and we do try to learn as much as we can do and take on as much as we can.
That's right. And, one thing I learned early on is you don't want to go into business for yourself if you think you're just chasing the money. A lot of people make that mistake, but they never find something that fulfills their needs. After a while, they hate what they're doing. So, I have a saying that I tell a lot of people that if you're looking for to become self-employed, you have to be passionate, but you also have to bring passion not passion, but patience and persistence. It's the 3 Ps: passion, persistence, and patience. And if you work the business will work for you. I'm throwing all these things at you, but it really is true. You have to enjoy what you're doing and not give up. Because if you give up, you fail. But if you never give up, at some point you will find a way to make things work, and you'll be rewarded for it.
That's true, but it is sticking with it. And you've had a journey, and I bet you hit some bumps in the road and a little bit like that. And I wonder, I've always said I think that a business is almost a mirror of yourself. It's almost like it's you. That you're that person in the mirror is the one you're kind of trying to overcome. How true has that been for you?
Yeah. There's a great element of truth to that because like I said before, I like to work outside. I'm not a person that could be confined to an office, and I love the freedom of going out and doing what I do, and moving from one job site to the next, and it really is almost as simple as going for a walk, and it's not difficult to do. It's just somebody has to do it. And that's the great thing about the cleaning industry or cleaning businesses. Not a lot of people want to do it, but for those of us that do, you can make a lot of money doing it. You just have to be willing to do it and understand that you have to provide more than what you say that you're going to do. And I think that applies to any type of business that you get into. You need to provide that extra value. And I'll give you an example. I mean, when we're cleaning up litter, or trash, depending on how you want to refer to that type of material, cans, cups, bottles, wrappers, cigarette butts. If we notice maybe a stop sign's been knocked down by a vehicle, or the wall's been tagged with graffiti, or somebody has been around back and dumped off a sofa and a mattress by the waste dumpster, we let our customers know that, and they really appreciate that. We're acting like an extra set of eyes for them, and they'd rather hear that from us first as they can, as soon as possible, as opposed to hearing from an angry tenant in their property maybe a couple of days later, and say, hey, you know what? There's been graffiti on this wall for 2 days. When is somebody going to come by and remove it? So it helps cement and build that client relationship, and they're more likely to want to continue to do business with us as opposed to snapping or jumping at a competitor who contacts them and says, we can do this for less money.
Yeah, exactly. Because I call it heart-led lead entrepreneurship, because you don't necessarily have to do these things or whatever, but you know what? It's being a good neighbor. It's being a good person. And I think we're getting back to a lot of that. We had a lot of it, I don't know, because you remember the 80s and stuff, and it was all go, 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 hustle, 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 and it was a little more cutthroat than I think it is there now. I think now we have more of a relationship-based entrepreneurship, whereas before I think there was a lot of, anything I can do to get money or get to the top.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the 80s. Wasn't that called the me decade? I seem to recall that was
the me generation or the me decade. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's so true, because if you think about it now, I mean, if you're in a restaurant business or any business that deals with the public, customer reviews are so important. I mean, they can kill a business if you're not into doing what you're doing, love what you do, whether it's in a restaurant or whatever. People are not going to be happy, and they're going to post negative reviews, and like I said, that could kill a business. So you have to make sure that you do more than what you say you're going to do to give the customer a positive experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Over deliver, because you want that person to come back, or you want that person to be happy, and you want to keep your clients rather than losing them. If you're a restaurant, you want them to come back. If you have a client-based business, you have clients, but you can't neglect those people. Yeah. I mean, just because you sign them up doesn't mean that they could get dissatisfied and look for somebody else. So you got to nurture that relationship. And I think we're more relationship-based now than we've ever been. I really believe that. Or maybe in like we remember in the 50s and stuff like that, where people would talk and it'd be all nice and everything. I think it's more going towards that than it is this salesy thing that we had in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see that. And it's kind of funny how things come around too, because, Toys R Us, went out of business, a year or two ago, and then now they've come back. And I think now they've recognized that maybe they lost their focus. And, there's something to be said for parents taking their kids into the toy stores so they can actually see these toys and play with them. And then they know if that's something they want or not, as opposed to just ordering everything online. And, and then the child is disappointed when they get the toy, and, because they think, well, that's not what I thought it was. So that's not what it looked, in the picture or the video. And so it's always nice to have the hands-on experience. And I think, we are getting back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so in a way. I mean, a lot of brick and mortar businesses have went out a lot due to Amazon and being able to just click a mouse and you got something coming to your door. I mean, it's the ease of which we can have things done these days. It's incredible. It
Yeah.
really is. And it makes you not really think about what you're spending as much because you just click, it's so easy,
That's right.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
But getting back to what you do, um, if you had a person that was just starting out, what advice would you give to them?
Well, if they're starting out in my
Yeah, in
business,
your industry, yes,
yeah.
yes.
First of all, I'd make sure that they want to do it. They don't mind, working outdoors, and they would enjoy cleaning up, providing a cleaning service, and I really enjoy it, and I think it's important that other people enjoy. They get the satisfaction knowing that they're providing a valuable community service, and that's keeping their communities litter free. And like, again, you're doing it because you get job satisfaction as opposed to making the big bucks, and like I said before, you can make really good money doing this, but that can't be, I don't believe, the motivating factor. You have to honestly enjoy doing what you're doing, and providing that customer service. And if someone feels that way, then all the power to them, and just don't take no for answers. And you always have to be willing to learn. No one ever stops learning. With technology improving the way it always is, you always have to try your best to stay up to date, and go where your customers are. You have to be there where if somebody is. When I started in 1981, I had an ad in the Yellow Pages telephone directory. That's where everyone went to find you.
I
But of course,
remember.
yeah. And so nowadays, you have to have a website. At the very least, you have to have a Google My Business listing, and then that way you're going to show up if people do a Google search. And that applies to all the other search engines. So you can, and these are free profiles that you can claim, and then at least people are able to find you and your service, and then. But you have to make it easy for people to find you.
Definitely. Definitely got to make it easy for people because there's so much thrown out at people these days. There's ads everywhere. There's, pop up this and look at me and all that stuff that's going on. You really have to differentiate yourself when you're a business owner in this space today.
Yeah. Well, and like you say, there's so many different platforms,
Mhm.
and not all of them necessarily work for every business. My customers are property management companies, so they're not necessarily going to be on Facebook, but they're definitely going to have um, LinkedIn profiles, and
Yes.
so
I
you
was
can
thinking
find,
that.
yeah, and things like that. But I mean, you could be another type of business, or maybe if you're providing a housekeeping service or a maid service, so well, yeah, it makes sense to be on Facebook, and some of the other platforms. A lot of people are having good luck with, like, Craigslist, believe it or not, still. And but yeah, there's you have to kind of try and experiment, and what works with you, just stick with it. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to find every single one and be on every single one, but I mean, if something works for you, then keep going back to it, and then spend some time try to find something else. But like I say, you don't have to be everywhere.
Yeah, true. It's tough because you have to really focus on where your people are.
Yeah.
And so you have to find out who those people are first. Like you said, property managers, well, where do they hang out? Where do they live? Where are they at? And like you said, it's LinkedIn. It's not necessarily Facebook. Well, some people are LinkedIn, some people are Instagram, some people are still on Twitter. It just depends on where that person is that is your ideal customer.
Yeah.
And then you
Well,
have to
there's
focus your energy on that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, there's a lot of trade associations too sometimes.
Yeah.
For example, with my prospects, there's every city tends to have a BOMA chapter, Building Owners Managers Association, and they put out a services directory, and oftentimes a magazine, and they get together on regular occasions to have these breakfast meetings where you can network. And if networking, face to face isn't your cup of tea, well then by all means take out a listing in the services directory. But you like, again, you have to be where people can find you. And a lot of times, if you're a member of BOMA, and somebody is thinking, well, where can I find somebody to clean up the litter or the trash from my parking lot? And they do a search, they look through their directory, you're going to show up. And so it's a wise investment, and it's better to put your money into those places where your prospects are, as opposed to just throwing it all over the
to
place.
The wind.
In fact, I was thinking that. Yeah. Caution to the wind.
Not money to the wind. We don't want that part.
No.
So, and I also think Facebook groups too, because they have groups of property owners and things like that too. So you search, you search where those people are, you make friends, you make relationships with those people. And then, if they want to do business with you, great. If not, you made a good friend. I mean, what you can't really lose there. Yeah.
Well, like the business I'm in, it's pretty niche, and my, prospects are pretty niche too. So with management companies, there tends to be two groups. There are the ones that manage residential property, and those that manage commercial properties. So the ones that manage residential properties, by all means, they're very likely to be on Facebook, because they're dealing with the public, the general public, and people are always saying, well, who's a good property manager, or where are great places to live, and do you like this landlord, etc. And so you've got to communicate, and you've got to get your message out that, hey, we provide value, and we got great homes, etc., etc. And so that's you need to be where people are going to find you.
Yep. You got to be where your customer is. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing, like right now? How has your business evolved over time, and what are you doing now?
Okay, well, I turned my side gig into a full-time business where I was working full-time, and there was only so many hours in the day, so I continued to scale the business, and my brothers became involved in the business. And then once we were all busy, and our customers were, coming to us saying, we've got more properties, or we want you to work weekends, and we decided, okay, well, let's get some people to work for us on a part-time basis. And a couple of guys are working full-time for us, but there's a lot of people out there that want to make extra money. Maybe just on a part-time basis, in the morning before they go to work, or maybe just on weekends. And so we've tapped into that community, and they're working for us. And so we built the business up to the point where we roughly have about 150 properties, and we're billing out over $650,000 a year. And that's just for doing litter pick or cleaning up trash. There's no landscaping or any other type of cleaning services. That's it. So at the same time, I thought, well, where else can I take this business? And I thought this is such a great opportunity for a lot of people. I wish when I started out, I would have had a mentor or a book to guide me. Simple how to start this type of business. So I wrote a book called Cleanlots. And I provide free support because it works. I know the business works, so I have no problem providing that free assistance. Like I say, if you work the business will work for you. And it's available on my website. And I've been doing that I've had the website for about 5 years now. And so I'm selling a few books. I'll admit the major source of my income still comes from providing the service. Because again, not everyone wants to clean up after other people, and I'll admit this business isn't for everyone, but for those of us that enjoy working outdoors and making a difference in our community and get great satisfaction, leaving a property cleaner than when you showed up, it's a great opportunity.
That's really, really cool. So you got to write a book. What's the name of your website, sir?
Oh, it's cleanlots.com.
That seems so simple. Cleanlots.com, folks. And if you want more information, you can go to cleanlots.com and pick up his book. And that way, and I'm sure you consult with that too, or not? Yeah,
well, like I say, I provide free support to anyone who buys my book. And if you're serious about it, I'm serious about the support I provide. My contact information is in the book, phone number and email, and you can pick up the phone, and the phone rings right on my desk, and I'll help you out. But it is a pretty simple business to learn, and most people tend to learn it pretty quickly, and it's always nice to hear back from people, 4 or 5 years after they bought your book, and they say, Brian, I just want to let you know what I've done, and a lot of those people are on my testimonial page, and it just blows me away how successful some people can get.
Can you give me one example of that? Like one example of someone that's been pretty successful in your business because of your book and you?
Well, there's a couple of recent ones. There's a school teacher in Chicago, and I initially found him because he thought he could make money, and I didn't know this at the time, but he thought he could make money being a podcaster, and so he was blogging, and his group was school teachers, and showing school teachers how to make other sources of income, and at the same time he was trying to make money from that, and I was going to be on his podcast, and that got canceled. And I found out why after. It's because he started making so much money after he bought my book, Cleaning Parking Lots, that he dropped the blog and the podcast. And wow, I mean, I think he's got about 60, 70 properties right now, and he's doing really well. I don't really know the dollar value. I think it's approaching six figures, but I mean, he just started this a couple of years ago. There's another guy, and everyone does it for different motivations. Some people just do this just to pay off some debt, and some people do it with the intention of turning it into a full-time business. But I remember hearing from a fellow that bought my book, and he reached out to me about 3 years later and said, Brian, I got your book, and all I did was do this part-time. I got a bunch of contracts servicing the Walmart supercenters in my city, and I was cleaning 6 of them, and I put my kids through school. And I, really want to thank you for sharing your opportunity. And just that again blew me away. And I'd never heard this guy never even phoned me and asked me any questions. And apparently, obviously, picked things up pretty quickly himself, and he decided, well, I'm just going to service the Walmart supercenters, nothing else, nobody else. And he made a good part-time income doing so.
That's really good. Well, it's good to hear, though, that people are out there, and when they put some effort into it, they're succeeding at what they're doing. I'm contemplating coming out with and we will be coming out with the Entrepreneurial Truth for the Next Generation. And so it's going to be a show about kids and young entrepreneurs. And so people that have made it, people that are just starting, and the whole gamut. If you were in that situation as a young person, a young entrepreneur, is that correct?
Well, yeah, back then, I mean, I was 21 when I started the business, right?
So do you, because you started so young, was there challenges because you started that young? I mean, to go to a business, say at 21 years old, and say, "Hey, guy, I'd like to have a contract to clean with your company."
Not really. It was more so from banking. I had to get my mom to co-sign a loan for my truck, and I just thought it would be so much easier doing the service with a truck. Because, having said that, you don't necessarily need one. It just makes it easier. But a person could get into this, and as long as you have a vehicle that can get you from job site to job site, that's the key. But a truck does afford a bit of convenience because you're more easily able to reach into the back of your truck for your tools, or maybe toss some trash bags into the back of the truck, and then drive around to the rear of the property where the waste dumpster is, and toss the bags in. If you're with a car, you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to transport that? In the trunk of my car, or pull a little trailer, whatever. But yeah, I needed my mom to co-sign that loan, and because I didn't have much of a credit history, wasn't making a lot of money. I was only 21, but other than that, I mean, setting up a bank account, or getting the necessary insurance, business licenses. I was of legal age, so there were no issues there. I think I probably impressed some of my prospects when I met them face to face, that they're thinking, here's this young guy who's gung ho about wanting to work for me and provide a service, and and I had a few comments and feelings that was that's what I was getting back then. And, that may have kind of helped me get a few contracts. But at the end of the day, what they really care about is, is he going to do what he says he's going to do for me? Is he going to give me results? Is he going to provide results? And that's what any, prospect wants to get from you, regardless of your age.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As well said. I'm just thinking about getting a little deeper into, what kind of tools, what things you need for the business, what kind of things did you have starting off and starting up?
Okay, well, when I started out, I had a few brooms. I was testing which ones worked the best. I had a push broom, and I quickly realized, well, no, there's no need for that because I'm not sweeping up dirt or gravel. That's what the big street sweepers will remove when they come in periodically. I needed to find some sort of litter collection tool. And, I started out with a couple of large dust pans or lobby pans, but, the lobby pans are more appropriate for, sweeping up small items in a lobby of a building, like a cigarette butt or whatever. But the larger piece items, you need to have a larger collection tool to gather those up as you're walking about the property before you empty it into the dumpster on site. So, I found a tool way back then that I still use to this day. And it's because it allows me to quickly clean a property, and it makes my work more profitable, actually, because I can clean up far more material using this tool than if I was to use like those little litter picker grabbers and walking around with some sort of trash bag on my hip. I still use that tool to this day. And actually, you can see it. If you go to my website, I've got a little video, a 3-minute video, which explains my service. And it shows me walking around the property cleaning it. And you can get a really good feel as to, what I'm doing and how I do it. And I reveal the source of where that tool can be found in my book. It's a secret.
The secret sauce.
Yeah.
So in thinking about this video in particular, this today's show, and thinking we'll probably title it "How to Start Your Own Cleaning Service." So I like that idea.
Or make money going for walks.
That's a good one too. Is there anything else that you would like to talk to the audience about before we go?
Well, I think we touched upon that earlier. I think if someone is passionate about something, you have to bring the rest of your game. You've got to be persistent. You have to be patient. You can't give up too easily if you hear a few no's. Some people will say, well, I've never been a salesperson. I can't sell anything. But really, if you find, everyone will find the motivation to do something. And if you think about it, everyone has some experience with sales, starting when you were a little kid. Remember when you asked your parents, you tried to justify the need for the raise in your allowance. You had to sell yourself as to why you deserved that raise or the bump in your allowance. And it's the same thing later when you got a bit older and you started dating. You had to sell yourself. When you finished school, or never mind, when you first got your part-time job and you were being interviewed in a job interview, you had to come across, you had to sell yourself. And so it isn't much more difficult than that. I mean, whatever business you get into, you're going to have to develop and learn and get experience with, selling whatever your product or service is. And keep in mind, you shouldn't be talking to people like these are prospects and you need to buy my product. What you're really trying to do to them, but talk to them, is how your product or service will benefit them. And, sell the benefits. Don't sell the features. They don't care about the features. But people are always interested to find out, how I can get better service and, and for less money, etc.
Exactly. You have to figure out what your customer's pain point is, or the people that you're trying to serve. What problem do you fix, and what problem do you address? And those are very key to being able to offer something that is a solution to their problem.
That's
You know,
right.
if I go to the store, I'm looking for solutions to problems, whether I'm hungry or thirsty or need toilet paper. Or
That's right.
I'm trying to
That's right.
fix a problem here, man.
That's right. And if you keep that mindset, it's you're not going to go into a situation, saying I can't sell anything to anybody. I'll never be able to be successful in business. That's the wrong mindset. And like I say, at some point, if you get involved into your own business, you're motivated to find solutions and make things work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. I really appreciate you being on. And, I, like I said, I learned a little bit today. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It was I had a great time, Jim.
Yeah, I did too. All right, everybody, click the subscribe button and the little bell thingamajigger, and we'll see you next time.